Bitcoin is now back above $114,000 after that massive liquidation event that we got on Friday. As per my last video, I think that this is what sets the final leg of this bull market cycle. However, there are a lot of people going max long here, and in today's video we'll be trying to answer whether or not that was it and we immediately move higher from here, a V-shaped reversal as they call it, or if we still have the chance to move a little bit lower, liquidate a lot of those new aggressive longs in the market before we go ahead and print the last leg of this bull market cycle. I'll also be talking about Ethereum and my projections as to where I think we could be headed next in the upcoming months. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. First things first, as we normally do, taking a look at the Bitcoin price action, you can see here that we had that massive wick. Everyone is well aware of it. Now, if I go on the weekly time frame, one thing that's super important to notice is that we did actually tap into a very, very crucial level that historically holds us support if we are to move higher. And that level is the 50-week moving average. Across the entire bull market, you can see that every single time that we lose these moving averages, which is the bull market support band, we tend to tap into this 50-week moving average. Now, what you'll notice is that we don't typically just tap into it once before moving higher. There are some more tests to come, and that's exactly what I'd like to talk about in today's video. But the point is, if the bull market support band does not hold us support, we tend to move lower and tap into the 50-week moving average. And if that holds us support, we're on our way much higher. You can see here that we held on to the bull market support band, and if I go on the daily time frame, this is what I'm talking about. Right around here, if you've been watching the channel, we were actually expecting a move down to the 107K level. But you can see that since coming back into this bull market support band, we managed to hold it perfectly, and that actually went ahead and sent Bitcoin to a brand new all-time high. Now, it was getting very wicky at the top here, and that's when I started to exercise a little bit of caution, warning that we could be moving lower, but as per my last video, I did not expect a move down to $100,000. So here's what I'm looking at here. We managed to break below the bull market support band, wicking all the way down to that 50-week moving average, which is found basically at the exact bottom, $101,000. And right now, we're just hovering above the bull market support band. This is ultimately positive in my opinion. I think that Bitcoin will be making a new all-time high this cycle, and I also believe that Ethereum will find its way above $5,000. As I've always said on the channel, between 5 and 7K has been my bull market target for Ethereum, and I still firmly believe that to be true. Ethereum is actually showing some relative strength here if we take a look at the ETH Bitcoin chart, and after this wick, we managed to close a little bit higher. Now we're just trickling a little bit here, but my base case is still that even if ETH against its Bitcoin pair taps into this bull market support band, again, we will likely bounce off of it and ETH will set a brand new all-time high. So here's what I think we should be looking at here. Usually when we get these kinds of wicks, they tend to get at least filled to a certain extent. It usually just isn't up only immediately. And that's why in my community, I've also talked about exercising a little bit of caution. Look, if on the weekly time frame, Saturday when Bitcoin was trading around $110,000, you managed to get into a long and now you're sitting in some nice profits, a $4,000 move for Bitcoin and some other altcoins is no joke. I would actually take a little bit of profits just in case we go ahead and retest lower. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to come back all the way down to $101,000. In fact, this may not be likely. What I do think could be happening here, though, is that we at least start flirting with maybe 50% of the wick. As some of you know that rule, typically we tend to test the wick. Doesn't have to be all the way to the bottom, as I said. However, it would surprise me if at some point in the upcoming days, we don't see Bitcoin back at these levels. So perhaps that could be between $107,000 to $110,000 again for another retest to really confirm that this will send us higher. Otherwise, if we start getting weekly closes below this level, $101,000 that is, I will confirm that I think the bull market is over And most of my trading will be looking for shorts on relief bounces. So I hope I've made myself extremely clear. Right now, we are technically in the clear as long as we continue to hold above this level. I know I'm leaving a massive margin for error, but with these kind of volatile markets, you need to do so in my opinion. So from a spot positioning, I'm still holding my Bitcoin, I'm still holding my Ethereum, but from a trading perspective, again, you know what trade I'm going to show you that I've been holding for ages, the Bitcoin dominance long. Now, I have been very, very vocal about saying Bitcoin dominance could be moving much, much higher from here since we tapped into this crucial support level. Now, as you can see, we got a massive wick to the upside. I mean, this took us from 59% all the way up to just under 63.5%. And just as I think that the probabilities are in our favor for Bitcoin to at least fill some of its wick, I also think that Bitcoin dominance will fill some of its own wick too. If you remember and you've been watching the channel, when everyone was calling for altcoin season here, I told you I was expecting Bitcoin dominance to pump. Now, I said somewhere above 62% dominance, and I mean, technically speaking, we made it to that level. However, this could be very, very interesting to see us over the upcoming days, potentially weeks, get close to filling the entirety of this wick. Maybe we do fill the entirety of this wick, and then we end up going ahead and rolling down. And this, in theory, should be altcoin season when Bitcoin starts distributing higher. So I don't personally think it's time to go aggressively long quite yet. That being said, I've also been very vocal about Ethereum making a new all-time high, and I'm actively looking for a position on that front. So what I think could be happening is we will likely come back down, fill some of this wick, and honestly, if we stay within this range and we just continue to chop around, that could give us enough fuel to move out of here, and Bitcoin could potentially distribute between $130,000 and $150,000. Now, I give a pretty broad range there, but if you've been watching the channel, my base case for Bitcoin has been somewhere between 130 to 160. But to be perfectly honest with you, the moment that we start convincingly breaking $130,000, I will likely offload a huge majority of my Bitcoin. As a matter of fact, the closes above 126, maybe 127, would allow me to offload some of my Bitcoin as well. That being said, right now, I think it's important to exercise a little bit of caution and be patient. We can tell that some people are simply not willing to be patient. We had the wick down to 101, and now everyone is looking to pile into longs. Again, we need to learn with these leverage flushes. Something to consider here is that on the daily time frame, there are more longs in the market than shorts already. On the 7-day time frame, you can see that there are still significantly more shorts, naturally because people piled in when we had this liquidation event, and also on the 30-day time frame, shorts are still dominating. But if you've been watching the channel, you know I like to implement a 3 to 5x rule here. And what I mean by this is that for us to get concrete reversal, we like to see at least 3x more cumulative long liquidation leverage in the market compared to cumulative short liquidation leverage in the market, and also vice versa. So in this case, you can see that there's around 15.63 billion worth of cumulative short liquidation leverage in the market. On the left here, there is still quite a lot of longs in the market, around 9 billion worth of cumulative long liquidation leverage. So this tells me that it's not like there's a ton more shorts than longs. If there's 3x onwards, that's when I start to get concerned. And so at this point in time, I will not rule out the fact that we can potentially come as low as here, $110,000, maybe even $108,000. So I'm still exercising a little bit of caution. I know a lot of people have talked about this is the opportunity to go max long. And honestly, on a larger time frame here, I do think that this will be the move that ends up sending us higher. But what if it's something like this? Let me just zoom out to one of the most recent examples. What do you notice here? A massive wick to the downside, only to get fully filled afterwards. Then we end up chopping below, and where do we tap into? The 50-week moving average. And so what if this is the same scenario and we do end up filling this wick? Would that be okay with you? You have to ask yourself that. That is why in my community, for those of you that have already longed and you managed to get a very, very solid entry on altcoins or on Bitcoin for that matter, I would highly recommend to move your stops at break even in case we go ahead and move lower. Now, if we don't end up filling any portion of this wick, which in my opinion is not likely, I would be more than okay filling some leverage long positions a little bit higher if we get the proper confirmation that we need. Exercise a little bit of patience here. I know everyone's telling you either A, sell all your positions, or B, this is the last leg higher, which I tend to agree with, but you do not want to go max long here. Please take care of your positions. The next thing I want to talk about in today's video is also the open interest. This is a pretty significant flush in open interest, and honestly, this is healthy for the market. We love to see this, and this tells me that we will likely move higher out of this big liquidation event. Next thing I wanted to also show you, we have the CME gap, which is around $110,000. And so this is why I also say, along with the liquidity, it would not surprise me if we grind a little bit higher, maybe we stay around these levels, causing a little bit more market uncertainty, then we go back down right to this highest liquidity zone, which just so happens to coincide with the CME gap, then we go ahead and move higher. So it's very interesting, and because of these market dynamics, this is why I remain bullish on Bitcoin dominance. A lot of people will already start forgetting what just happened and call for altcoin season. I simply don't believe this to be the case. I think that Bitcoin dominance will continue to increase. And by the way, if you want to trade with me, you have the first link in my description down below. You click this link and it'll bring you to my free Telegram community. DM me the word premium and I would be happy to onboard you into my free premium group. The only requirement is to sign up with one of my affiliate exchange links and start trading on there as you normally would. As a matter of fact, both of the main exchanges that I have been using recently have had no issues with this liquidation event. So if you want a reliable exchange, first and foremost, I would highly recommend that you sign up to Bluffin. Also, based on your trading volume, you can get an iPhone 17, and this is where I tend to have most of my trades. As you can see here, I'm currently sitting in my Bitcoin dominance trade, and honestly, I will likely keep this open for quite some time, as I do believe it's highly likely that we will fill at least some of this Bitcoin dominance wick, along with the fact that we could be filling some of this Bitcoin downtrend wick. So pay attention, because the markets will likely try to shake you out once more. Again, for those of you that are waiting for my call, because I know that a lot of you watch the channel and hope that I just say go max long, I am perfectly content with going long if we get higher confirmations as well. I'm not just going to wait for us to hit $100,000. I want to take advantage of this last leg of this bull market cycle. But as I've said, given what we've seen historically in these markets, I'm exercising a little bit of caution here. And as we wrap up this video, I also wanted to quickly touch on this hyper liquid whale who took advantage of the market downturn, made a lot of money on a short. You can see that he's actually currently adding to his position. Now, his original short, I believe he entered around $123,000. Then he took some profits on the way down, and now he keeps on adding to the position. It's currently sitting at around a $200 million position. Let's see how this plays out, but if he's adding to his position, he is likely betting on the price moving a little bit lower. And that sums up today's video. The bull market is still intact in my opinion. We tapped into that 50-week moving average, which historically holds us support if we are to move higher. That being said, I still think that there is an opportunity here to go ahead and fill some of that wick before we just start V-reversing to new all-time highs. And the main trade that I'm looking at is Ethereum to new all-time highs. I'm being patient here, happy to wait and see what happens to the market. I don't think it makes sense to go aggressively long quite yet, in my honest opinion. At least that's how I am personally navigating the market. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.